The brain is a complex organ that is not yet well understood. It is the seat of consciousness, intellectual activity, and emotion. It also plays a centralizing and coordinating role in the entire body, by virtue of a vast neural network. Through the nerves, the brain receives sensory information perceived by the body and orders the necessary actions, mainly muscle contractions. Neurons are the basic cells in the nervous system. A neuron is composed of a cell body and long fibers that provide neural communication throughout the body. The shortest fibers are called dendrites. They receive neural messages emitted by other neurons. Each neuron has only one axon, which is a much longer fiber and is usually sheathed. The role of the axon is to transmit neural messages to other cells, usually other neurons. The human nervous system contains hundreds of billions of interconnected neurons that are constantly sending messages to each other. The nervous system is the main communication network in the body. It is guided by the central nervous system, which has more than 100 billion neurons. The central nervous system is composed of the brain and the spinal cord. The spinal cord is a long, flexible tube that sits inside the bony channel formed by the spine. It consists of two types of matter: gray matter, formed by the cell bodies of neurons, and white matter, formed by extensions of the neurons. There are 31 pairs of nerves attached to the spinal cord. The spinal cord also provides the link between the brain and the network of nerves that extend to the rest of the body. The brain, housed in the skull, is the core of the nervous system. It is composed of the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. The brainstem is directly connected to the spinal cord and enables the brain to communicate with the entire body. The cerebrum is a soft mass that takes up 90% of the volume of the brain. It is divided into two hemispheres, which in turn are divided into lobes. Each lobe is assigned a different set of functions. The frontal lobe is responsible for thought, language, voluntary movements, and emotions. The parietal lobe commands touch. The occipital lobe processes visual images, and the temporal lobe controls hearing and memory functions. The human cerebrum is an incredibly complex organ. Although it appears to be a homogeneous mass, the cerebrum in fact contains two types of matter: white matter, formed of nerve fibers, whose main role is transmission, and gray matter, formed of the cell bodies of neurons, which is the seat of specific functions. Buried deep in the cerebrum, the hypothalamus controls most vital functions, such as appetite and body temperature. Above it, the thalamus acts as a link between the sensory organs and the different regions of the cerebrum. The cerebral cortex, which is the top part of the cerebrum, processes sensorial messages and commands voluntary movements. The cerebral cortex is also the seat of intellectual functions, such as language. As a result of sophisticated medical imaging techniques, The functions of the main parts of the cerebrum are now well known. But the role of many areas remains a mystery. The central nervous system communicates with the body as a whole through a vast network of nerves. This network is called the peripheral nervous system. It is composed of 12 pairs of cranial nerves linked directly to the 31 pairs of spinal nerves connected to the spinal cord. All the spinal nerves have both a sensory root, which sends sensory messages to the central nervous system, and a motor root, which transmits orders from the central nervous system to muscles so that they contract. Certain cranial nerves have only a sensorial function. The optic nerve, for example, transmits information from the eye. Others have only a motor function. For example, the accessory nerve commands the movements of the neck. The peripheral nervous system can be thought of as a network of sensory and motor paths with many branches, innervating the body as a whole. The nervous system orders the body's muscles to contract. We can deliberately order the skeletal muscles to contract, which enables us to perform movements. These voluntary movements are commanded by the motor cortex, a zone of the cerebrum located behind the frontal lobe. The motor cortex sends a neural message that moves through the brainstem along the spinal cord and into the neural network to the muscle being commanded. Stimulated by the neural message, the muscle contracts. Other muscles, like those of the stomach wall, are not voluntarily controlled. They are controlled directly by regions deep within the brain, such as the hypothalamus. Thus, during digestion, the stomach contracts without our being aware of it. These involuntary contractions ensure that the alimentary bolus is digested, even while we sleep. The endocrine system is composed of 10 glands in different parts of the body. When the endocrine glands are stimulated, they produce molecules called hormones and release them into the vascular system. Hormones are like chemical messengers, transported by the blood to target cells. When it reaches a target cell, the hormone attaches itself to a specific receptor, which triggers a physiological process such as cell division. The production of many hormones is controlled by two small structures located at the base of the brain, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus is composed of nerve nuclei that control vital functions such as sleep. The hypothalamus also controls the pituitary gland, which is the main hormone-producing gland. The pituitary gland alone secretes 9 different hormones. Vasopressin, for example, regulates kidney functioning. Oxytocin causes contractions of the uterus during childbirth. Other pituitary hormones control skin pigmentation and bone growth. Together, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland produce a third of the body's hormones. They therefore have an effect on many physiological processes.